Over the years, I've harvested countless pounds of chanterelles, but this one, by far, was my biggest haul to date. I managed to stumble on some golden chanterelles, as well as a few others in a single afternoon. I also shared a few meals I made with them at the end of this video, if you're curious. Alright, enough talking. Let's go foraging. If you're new to foraging for chanterelles, keep in mind that there's several types of them with only a few lookalikes. The main thing you'll want to look for is the ridges or veins on the underside of the cap. Some, like these smooth chanterelles, are less apparent, but you'll get an eye for them the more steps you put in out in the woods. I found these towards the end of summer at the bottom of a hill next to a swamp in partial shade. When they're this size, I like to dehydrate them to add them to soups or noodles, so I'm taking as many as I can carry out. Another popular summertime mushroom you may find alongside chanterelles is Old Man of the Woods. They're always cool to find and impossible to misidentify thanks to its spiky cap that reminds me of Bowser's shell from Mario Kart. They are edible, but I haven't had much luck with them in the kitchen. The smallest of the chanterelles and probably the least desirable as far as the culinary value goes, cinnabar red shanties are surprisingly easy to spot despite their small stature. Their bright orange bodies are unlike anything else you'll find on the forest floor. I usually just leave these unless the caps get bigger than, say, a size of a quarter.
So cute.
Here's a common false chanterelle. Another common lookalike are jack-o'-lanterns, but they grow directly from wood instead of the soil. I found some Monotropa uniflora, or ghost pipe, growing alongside these golden chanterelles. I collected a few pounds of this stuff and made a few different sedative tinctures with them, which I'll be making a video on in the months to come. There were maybe a dozen this size that were still fresh enough to bring home. If you're struggling to find giant chanterelles like these, consider that I found these growing around a mature beech tree about 4 to 5 days after a heavy rain. These were actually at the top of a hill above a tiny swamp this time.
Unreal.
Now this was just before sunset. The mosquitoes were out, so I was eager to get home and clean these guys off. Let's get it. Check out this little guy about to get evicted. He's bugging. On the left is a subspecies of funnel chanterelles. I call them yellowfoot shanties. So left to right, we got our giant golden chanterelle, yellowfoot funnel, cinnabar red, smooth, and some yellow spindly coral fungi, along with a bunch of old man of the woods and ghost pipe in the back, both of which are also edible. As you can see, it's very important to clean off your wild mushrooms once you get back. I try to do this in the field, but you'll inevitably bring back hitchhikers if you've been foraging for long enough. Let's cook some chanterelles. When cooking large chanterelles, the best way to prep them is to just rip them apart, kind of like string cheese. And when fresh, they smell like a nutty apricot. It's honestly incredible. So this first dish is just a makeshift noodle dish. I just grabbed a few items from the garden and threw it together. I was trying to keep it somewhat healthy, and if I were to redo this, I incorporate some type of creamy sauce. It goes really well with chanterelles. It's always a good idea to sweat your mushrooms on low heat before you really start to cook them. My go-to when it comes to eating mushrooms is to just slap them on a pizza. Oh, and wild oysters are also fruiting at the same time as chanterelles, so don't forget to look up once in a while as you're scanning the ground for wild chanterelles. When you go foraging for wild mushrooms, it's not uncommon that you'll come back with more than you know what to do with. When it comes to chanterelles, they really are best fresh, though you can always sell your extras to restaurants or give them away to friends and family. They last up to a week in the fridge, stored in a paper bag. It's best to usually avoid plastic. You can also dehydrate them like I did here, but after experimenting with this method, I honestly don't recommend it. They lose their aroma and flavor when you do this, even after rehydrating. From now on, I'm only dehydrating the small ones and instead just going to cook these in butter, then vacuum seal them and freeze them in meal-sized portions. Here's some of those smaller dehydrated ones, and you can see they rehydrate great in soups or water for whatever you want to cook them with. And if you're a mushroom freak like me and still had some left over, maybe some went bad in the fridge, you can always compost them and incorporate them into your garden or landscape. Who knows, you might get lucky and start seeing chanterelles right outside your doorstep. Good luck foraging.